clock is winding down. So you get into the verbal reasoning question. They're all passage-based, of course. Yes?
Sorry, do they have like breaks in between the sections? Or is it
Yeah, yeah, good point. You have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes here. Yeah. Yeah, otherwise you would really be like the Iron Man or woman. Okay, so you do have 10-minute breaks. Take your breaks. Don't talk to anyone. They might try to psych you out because, as we'll see, the scores are curved based on who's sitting there. Okay, so verbal reasoning. So all passage-based. How much time do you have? Anybody know? 60 minutes, 1 hour. So less time, but less questions as well. You only have 40 questions. They're all passage-based. Okay? All right, so same score. It's on 15. You want to try to get a 10 or above. The average is an 8. All right, the writing sample. The structure is very different because they're essays, right? So you're going to have 2 essays to write that are going to take 30 minutes each. Your time does not carry over, which means if you finish one essay early, tough. That's time you should have used. Okay, so you don't get that time later on. The prompts they could come from one of a dozen categories like politics, like education, like science, technology, stuff like that. Ethics, they love ethics. Okay, and in fact, on the anc.org website, they will give you a list, all the prompts, all of them. And so you might get excited, you might say, wow, I can study in advance, I'm going to really beat that. Yeah, but there's like thousands, okay, so good luck with that. But I have heard students who have actually written practice tests with the Princeton Review who told me that on the MCAT they got the exact same prompt. And it's like, you know, that's pretty lucky, so, but you know, just to give you an idea that there are patterns, and your job is not to memorize 1,000 prompts, just to get the patterns, okay? So you have 30 minutes each. And when you're practicing for these, don't use Word like spell checker or stuff like that, because you don't have that, obviously. Sorry? Oh, yes, please.
I was just going to ask, to get your score, do you get the score for each category and the total, or just the total?
You get a total, well, yeah, so we'll talk about that. You're going to get a total for these 3 sections. As we're going to see, it's on 45. And this one's scored a bit differently. So it's very strange how they scored it. It's scored from J to T.
all the letters in between?
All the letters in between, yeah. So, and on top of that, so you have, okay, so this is how the writing sample is mapped out. So if you have your J, K, L, M, N, P. Okay, so here are all the possible scores on the writing sample. So what you do is you start, so the best score is a 6, and then each one down is 0.5 increments. Why? I'm not sure. I have a feeling they chose the middle of the alphabet to allow for future expansion. I have really no idea. This is how I do this thing, okay? Okay, so the average score is between these two. This is your average. And I'd say a competitive score the average is more towards the O side. And it's once you have the pattern, it's not so bad. By the way, all of the essays you write have to follow the same format. It follows something called the TAS format. Okay? Thesis, antithesis, or antithesis, and synthesis. Okay? The thesis will ask you what the prompt, so you'll have a prompt, and what I mean by prompt is a statement, like I have a few prompts with me here. So an example for, let's take a good one. So, a nation's foreign aid should be directed to help those countries that help themselves. What does that mean? Well, okay, so you think about it, you brainstorm. The thesis will say, when is that true? When would that apply? The antithesis says when is that not necessarily true, or when might the converse be true. And the synthesis asks you to tie it all together and establish a general rule that will dictate when it's the thesis case and when it's the antithesis case. Okay? Sounds complicated at first, but it's not so bad. And once you've practiced it 100 times, it's like second nature. It's almost like breathing. Okay, so it also means you're going to have to accumulate a lot of current events, and you're going to have to organize your research because you have to use a lot of examples in your essays. So organize your current events, make groups, study groups, share stuff, you know, like send each other links, do all of that stuff. Okay, last section, biosciences. It's just like this stuff. There's a subtle difference. So it's 75 minutes. You have 52 questions. Same deal. 85% are passage-based, and 15 are freestanding. Okay? The difference is in the content. So the content, it's biology and organic chemistry. Okay? And the proportion is not the same. There's a reason for that. So you have here, right now it's mostly, let's say it's about 75% bio, 25% OChem, give or take. Probably because there's more research being done in like genetics and stuff like that recently, and so they want to put more focus on that. So that's the way it works. Okay, but still it's a big enough chunk that it's worthwhile, but there's less content as well. Okay? Are there any questions about the structure of the MCAT? Any questions at all? Yes?
Is it subject to change in the near future?
Yeah. In the near future, how near? I don't know. They tweak it all the time, and they might change percentages. They might add content. So sometimes they add a topic, and we have to stay on that. Okay, we have to stay on that game because if they add topics, obviously you need to know it. So that's why if you go to AMC website, you get a list of all the topics. Okay, so the topics are subject to change. The structure, I would highly doubt it. I think it's going to be like this for many years to come, or it'll get phased out. Who knows? Okay. Any questions? Other questions? Yes?
What are the physics?
Sorry?
The physics?
Yeah.
Like which exactly?
The topics that they ask? Okay, so there's like, you can get into the details, right? But the global categories are mechanics. So there's kinematics, which is I consider mechanics. And then there's 3 mechanics, like the Princeton Review breaks it down to the 3 mechanics lessons. So there's a lot of mechanics. It's about a third of the physics. And then you're gonna have fluids, okay, fluids and solids, right? Elasticity of solids, things like that. And then you're gonna have electrostatics, which everybody loves, right? So you have electrostatics, and after that you have some optics, and like sound waves, so waves in general. So optics, I guess, fall into that as well. It's not even CGEP level. A lot of this stuff you've covered in high school. Some of it you have not covered at all, like buoyancy and fluids. You may not have covered that. Elasticity of solids, depending on where you come from, right? So I'd say it's almost like high school level, beginning CGEP level, but no calculus. CGEP classes are a lot harder than this. But this is a lot of volume, and it's the types of questions that they ask intentionally to mess you up. Okay, so just be aware of that. Any other questions? Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure on the AMC website, is it a really detailed list for each section of the topics that will cover?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, and as I mentioned before, so you can go to that website and they will give you a list of every topic in detail. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few pointers. A few facts, a few stats, a few interesting tidbits, golden nuggets of wisdom.